could you talk like what experience or like what suggestions you would have for anybody who might be in a situation with roommates or in a dorm or something to be able to practice?
Yeah, so I acknowledge that my experience, I've been really fortunate in that my roommates, I mean, especially like moving into the sorority house, I told them, like I explained to my friend that I was moving in with that I was doing pagan shit, and essentially that's what all the stuff was about, and she was already my friend at that point, so I've always found that it's easier to tell people what I do after they know me, because they know I'm not evil. I mean, it was like the same situation with my boyfriend now, where like I didn't explicitly tell him that I was pagan, but after like a few months of dating, he asked me, and I was just like, yeah, is that a problem? And he was like, I guess not. I mean, I know you're good. So, like, that's kind of how it goes. But,
how do you practice in a dorm room?
Yes, practicing in a dorm room. So, I've had really understanding people in my life, but some people are less understanding. So, it kind of depends how much you're comfortable with having out there and how discreet you want to be. Because, I mean, technically, you can set up ritual sacred space with very little on your person at a time. You can literally just sit there and meditate and create your sacred space for yourself if you have to.
You could do it like an astral temple.
Yeah, that's something that my first high priestess said a lot, was like, you don't need the things necessarily to make sacred space for yourself. You can, you can create that space mentally for yourself if you need to, especially if you're surrounded by people that are not the most understanding. But speaking for myself and being in a situation where I have a little bit more flexibility, I always like to have a representation of the god and the goddess. So right now for me, that looks like a couple little paintings that my sister made for me of the god and the goddess, just very basic, like little paintings of them, and I just keep them propped up on my desk. And if I need to do some kind of ritual, I've got those there. It's very easy to find a bowl for salt and water, and I have my thame and my other tools there, and it just kind of depends how in depth with it I want to get. If I know I'm going to have the room to myself for a while, and I mean, you can always use the excuse of like, oh, I'm bringing some guy back to bang, like, can you give me the room for an hour? And then and your mate will be like, oh yeah, get it, girl, and then she'll leave you alone for a couple hours, and maybe you're getting dick, or maybe you're casting a circle, like, you never know.
Wow. That's a great comparison right there.
Just put the scrunchie on the doorknob. You've got to do what you got to do. But yeah, there's options.
What they're teaching you in that sorority.
There's options, is what I'm saying.
By Coven Sister, everyone.
Yes, that's me.
Well, let me ask. Well, actually, before I get into that, I know you and I talked a bit about this, and I actually would start thinking about it as we were discussing this. Of if you want tools or if you want to set up an altar, it doesn't have to be stereotypically witchy. When I first had an altar, I was living with my mom. I want to say, I don't know, years have blended together, especially after the last year. But I remember when I started out, my altar didn't look like the stereotypical witch altar. I mean, I had like some Yankee candles and a thing of incense. And by incense, I mean like a single stick that I would keep just refreshed all the time, and like a feather I found outside, and that was my altar. But I knew that these specific Yankee candles, the specific colors that they were in the specific position I had them on my altar, represented the god and the goddess. And truth be told, I still use Yankee candles to this day, like the little tiny ones, as my god and goddess. And honestly, it smells great when I do, so I love it. But it could be something simple. And, if you're in a dorm room, I know you and I talked about how to do things like using incense.
Yeah, that can get really tricky because, I mean, all the dorms that I lived in, and I think pretty much every situation, like, they don't want you having fire if you're living on campus because that's how dorms get burned down. But, I mean, people are able to sneak in weed and stuff all the time. So, like, it can be done. You just have to make sure that you open the windows very wide and keep a lot of air flowing. Or if doing outdoor ritual is an option for you, that can sometimes be good. But,
or outdoor meditation.
Outdoor meditation, yeah. I mean, like, obviously don't get caught playing with fire in the woods because that could get you kicked out of college too. But, use your discretion.
I think too, burning essential oils would be a viable option as well.
Mm-hmm. I have so many essential oils, and that's something that's so easy to keep on you, especially at college. Like, nobody really questions it. I like to just, like, use them in my hairbrush and stuff to make my hair smell nice. So you can there's a lot of things that you can have around that you can kind of explain away as hobbies or whatever. Like, same with incense or candles. You can just be like, I like candles a lot. Or, like, even my little paintings of the god and goddess, you can be like, oh, they're just little pictures that my sister made for me. Like, I just like art, you know?
Yeah. And I'm sure, too, if you do things